Most people search for wealth the way a man chases his own shadow, forever running, never arriving. They measure it in numbers, in things, in the applause of strangers. But true wealth is not found in the counting of coins or the climbing of ladders. It is carved into the soul, and that is why most never find it, because they are looking outward for something that must be awakened within. They confuse riches with value. They confuse possession with purpose. They chase what glitters and ignore what grows. A man can own the world and still starve within himself. A woman can wear diamonds and still die of thirst for meaning. We have been taught to buy, not to build, to follow, not to feel, to accumulate, not to awaken. And in that forgetting, we become strangers to our own potential. There was once a boy named Thomas Edison who was told by his teacher that he was too stupid to learn. They sent him home with a note that said, "He will never amount to anything." But his mother, in the quiet power of love, read the note aloud as something else. "Your son is a genius. This school is too small for him." And from that single shift in belief, an empire of invention was born. Wealth begins in the mind, not the market. If your thoughts are poor, no paycheck will save you. If your spirit is bankrupt, no promotion can fulfill you. This is the first secret. True wealth is not something you get. It's something you become. But most people never become anything. They remain stuck in borrowed dreams, addicted to comfort, terrified of judgment. They mimic, they conform, they settle, and they wonder why life gives them leftovers instead of legacy. Because wealth does not come to the crowd. It comes to the courageous. You must build the mind before you build the bank account. You must strengthen your will before you accumulate the world. You must master yourself before you attempt to lead others. And that means clarity. The kind of clarity that burns like fire and refuses to be extinguished. Clarity is not given, it is earned through silence, through solitude, through suffering. It is written into the walls of your soul like sacred scripture. But the world is noisy. It drowns the whispers of destiny in the screams of urgency. Notifications, deadlines, opinions, distractions, 1,000 voices pulling you in 1,000 directions. And yet, Gibran said, your living is determined not so much by what life brings to you, as by the attitude you bring to life. Do you bring presence? Do you bring vision? Do you bring a spirit unshaken by storms? Because true wealth does not fear the storm, becomes the storm. It is the stillness in the chaos, the unshakable conviction in the face of confusion. Look at Carnegie, born in a one-room cottage in Scotland, raised in poverty. He sold newspapers on the streets and worked in a cotton factory at 13. But in the furnace of hardship, he forged the iron of will. And through that furnace, he built not just a fortune, but a philosophy that wealth is not for indulgence, but for impact. So I ask you, what are you building? Are you building an empire of ego or a legacy of light? Are you filling your pockets or your purpose? Because wealth without purpose is poverty in disguise. And yet, most people choose the easy road. They want the harvest without the planting. They want the reward without the risk. They want the applause without the discipline. But the truth is, life only gives to those who give everything. Discipline is the gatekeeper of wealth. Not just the wealth in your bank, but the wealth in your soul. The wealth of waking up with peace, of sleeping with purpose, of moving through the day with unshakable clarity. But that kind of wealth cannot be bought. It is built, brick by brick, decision by decision, sacrifice by sacrifice. And this is why most never find it, because most refuse to pay the price. They settle for temporary comfort over eternal growth. They would rather numb the pain of becoming than endure the fire that transforms. Yet the fire is necessary. The fire is sacred. Gibran once wrote, out of suffering have emerged the strongest souls. The most massive characters are seared with scars. You must allow yourself to burn away the lies, the fears, the limitations you inherited. Burn until what remains is indestructible. Not because life is easy, but because you have become strong. Walt Disney was fired from his first job for lacking imagination. Can you imagine? The man who imagined whole worlds was told he had none, but he refused to let that opinion define his value. He knew something most people never learn. You do not need permission to build your dream. And that's the second truth. Most people never find true wealth because they wait to be chosen. They wait to be approved. They wait for signs, for perfect timing, for some external validation to say, now you are worthy. But the moment you wait to be chosen is the moment you give away your crown. You were not born to wait. You were born to declare. You were born to command, to write the vision, to walk into the unknown, to stand before life and say, I do not need permission to rise, because true wealth answers only to the bold. It is drawn not by chance, but by certainty. You must believe before the evidence appears. You must act while others hesitate. You must move even when fear whispers. Sit still. Look around. The masses chase distractions. They binge consumption, not creation. They speak of dreams, but build nothing. And that is why they are broke not in money, but in mission. Because wealth follows builders. It follows the ones who create, who rise early while others sleep, who learn while others complain, who persist while others quit. Gibran wrote, progress lies not in enhancing what is, but in advancing toward what will be. So the question becomes, what are you advancing toward? Not what have you been told to chase, not what the world says is safe, but what your soul aches for in the silence, that whisper behind the noise, that dream that won't die, even when ignored. That is your compass, that is your calling, and it will never align with average. To follow it, you will be misunderstood, you will be ridiculed, you will be doubted. But do not bend, do not shrink, because the path to true wealth is narrow and most turn back at the first sign of resistance. But not you. You were born for the narrow gate. You were born to walk where others refuse. You were born to awaken a wealth so powerful it shakes generations to come. Not just wealth in dollars, wealth in courage, wealth in wisdom, wealth in love, wealth in peace. Because the greatest currency on earth is not what you store, but what you stand for. Most people stand for nothing. That's why they fall for everything. They drift, tossed by trends, enslaved by opinions, seduced by comfort. But you must become immovable, rooted like the ancient cedars of Lebanon, deep, unwavering, reaching both down into the soul and up into the heavens. This is how true wealth is formed. Not through the shallow winds of surface ambition, but through depth. You must go deep, into your wounds, into your questions, into the dark places others avoid, because buried beneath the soil of your struggle lies the seed of your fortune. Most people avoid that soil. They polish the surface, they wear masks, they pretend, and the world rewards them with distraction, but never with destiny. But you are not most people. You were not born to hide. You were born to confront, to ask the hard questions. Who am I when the applause fades? What do I truly believe when no one's watching? What am I building that will outlive me? These are the questions that birth wealth, not just external, but eternal. You see, Henry Ford didn't build an empire because he followed the rules. He built it because he challenged them. He said, if I had asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. That is the difference between the poor in vision and the wealthy in imagination. One sees what is, the other sees what could be. And this is the third truth. Most people never find true wealth because they never develop original vision. They copy, they repeat. They wait for someone else to innovate so they can imitate. But true wealth belongs to the initiators. The ones who dare to see what no one else sees and believe in it until it becomes real. You must protect that vision with your life, because the world will try to bury it in noise, in fear, in delay. But Gibran said, you may forget with whom you laughed, but you will never forget with whom you wept. And the vision will make you weep because it will demand everything from you. Time, energy, focus, faith, when all signs point to failure. But if you stay with it, if you nurture it like a sacred flame in the wind, that vision will one day become your reality. And that reality will become a gift to others. Because that's the ultimate irony. True wealth is never just for you. It's for the ones you serve, the ones you lift, the ones you inspire through the life you chose to create. So what is stopping you? Fear, that ancient lie dressed in logic. Fear is the thief of all fortunes. It tells you to wait until you're ready. It says, be realistic. It wears a suit. It speaks with reason. But underneath it is cowardice, disguised as caution. Burn it. Burn the false comfort of fear. Burn the illusion that you need more time. Because the clock is not your servant. It is your witness. And every second you waste in fear is a second stolen from the empire you could have built. You must move. Not when you feel ready. Not when the timing is perfect. But now. Now is your moment. Now is the only moment. And the ones who become wealthy in spirit and in life are the ones who act while the rest hesitate. The wealthy are not different in blood. They are different in belief. They do not wait to feel worthy. They decide they are. They do not wait for guarantees. They move in faith. They do not ask if it will work. They ask, how long am I willing to work until it does? Most never find true wealth because they quit too soon. They stop at the first closed door, the first critic, the first month without results. They confuse delay with denial. But every great builder, every world changer, every soul that left a legacy understood this. The universe tests what you say you want before it delivers. Abraham Lincoln lost election after election. He failed in business. He buried the woman he loved. He suffered breakdowns, but he kept walking. Because somewhere deep inside, he understood that wealth is not measured in ease, but in endurance. And so must you endure, because everything you desire is already reaching for you. But it will not meet you where you are. It will meet you where you're willing to go. You must become more. You must evolve. Your habits must mature. Your environment must sharpen. Your circle must rise. For you cannot manifest wealth with a poverty of mindset. You cannot build empires with the language of victims. You cannot be extraordinary while clinging to ordinary thinking. Gibran wrote, the significance of a man is not in what he attains, but in what he longs to attain. What do you long for? Not in moments of inspiration, but in the silence of your nights. What does your soul whisper when the world quiets down? Do you hear the call? Do you feel the pull? Because the wealth you're chasing is already chasing you. It is encoded in your breath. It is hiding in your discipline. It is waiting in your decision. But most never decide. They linger in hesitation. They sleep in potential. They romanticize ideas, but they never marry commitment. So they drift. They repeat. They grow older, but never grow deeper. They become experts in excuses, masters of distractions, addicted to the illusion of productivity, while never producing anything that matters. But you were not born to drift. You were born to dominate, to carve new roads, not follow worn ones, to write truths the world has forgotten. True wealth is forged in silence and proven in motion. It is not loud, but it is undeniable. It speaks without speaking. It walks into rooms and shifts the atmosphere, because it was earned, not inherited. If you want true wealth, stop asking how long it will take. Start asking, what am I willing to become? Because that's what it's about. Becoming. Becoming so disciplined, chaos flees from your presence. Becoming so grounded, no wind can uproot you. Becoming so convicted, Even failure bows before you. The world may not reward you right away, but it is watching. The universe does not bless the wishful. It blesses the warrior. And true wealth, real, lasting, soul-altering wealth, comes only to those who endure the fire and rise, again and again, from its ash. Rise, because in this world, the wealthiest are not always the loudest, but the ones who never bowed, not to fear, not to pressure, not to trends. They bowed only to purpose, purpose, that rare flame that cannot be sold, only surrendered to. It asks for everything, but gives back more. It strips away your false identities and replaces them with fire. It turns confusion into clarity. It turns talent into truth. It turns survival into significance. And yet, most never find true wealth because they never find their purpose. They choose profit over calling. They choose safety over meaning. They chase paychecks, not passion. But your purpose is the root of all riches. Not just financial riches, but time, impact, joy, and freedom. You were not created to be a slave to the clock. You were not born to trade your soul for comfort. You were not placed here to follow the script they handed you at birth. You were born to write your own, and the ink is your decisions. The pages are your actions. The story is your legacy. And if you're truly willing to let go of the old, to burn your excuses, to silence the noise, to walk into the fire, you will not just find wealth, you will become it. You will walk into rooms and carry something no money can buy. Presence, power, peace, the kind of peace that can only be earned on the battlefield of personal transformation. Because real wealth is not inherited, it is initiated. It is chosen in moments when no one is watching. It is confirmed through resistance. And it is crowned not in gold, but in grit. Look in the mirror, right now. That is the only permission you need. Not your past, not your parents, not your failures. You are the vault. You are the fortune. You are the source of wealth the world needs, but doesn't yet recognize. So stand up, walk forward. Become the kind of soul so rare, so rooted, so relentless, that the world has no choice but to rise with you. Because in the end, the truth is simple. Most never find true wealth, because they never had the courage to become it. But you, now you know, so what will you become?